Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
This is going to be a Vikings roster bubble roulette edition of Purple Daily here. We're going to basically stockpile almost a month's worth of Judd's Camp Notes observations, the preseason games that we've all set our eyes on, and we're gonna spin the roster bubble wheel, and we're gonna talk about players that are on or near the bubble of the 53-man roster cuts, which are going to be a week from tomorrow, right, Judd?
26th, 3 p.m. on the 26th, so next week, yeah.
So the clock is ticking on the trim downs. Couple things before we start here. Number one, happy State Fair Week for all who celebrate the second largest state fair in America. The Great Minnesota Get-Together starts on Thursday, and it runs through Labor Day. And for the first time in years, we're going to take some variation of Mackey and Judd shows, all of the Score North podcasts. Every day Purple Daily is going to be out there from Thursday, the weekdays, from Thursday through the following Friday. So August 21st through August 29th. There is a Score North podcast stage or booth that is just kind of on the left side of the grandstand, maybe like a block removed. Full schedule and even like a map with the little pinpoint on it at scorenorth.com/fair. We'd love to. And by the way, noon to 3 is the window for the Score North shows. Purple Daily every day at 1 o'clock. There is one day where we're doing a noon to 2 block of Purple Daily. But you can find all that info at scorenorth.com/fair. So we're pumped to see as many of you as possible. And we're probably going to make our stop at Quick Trip at some point. That one last Egan stop before training camp is over here this week, Joe.
Yep. So there's 3 days of practice left. And I do not know what I'm going to see in those 3 days. But I can tell you where I will be shortly after the double horn sounds to end the practice. And that is at that Quick Trip. That one's off Dodd Road. And you know, it's funny. Phil and I both stopped there, and it's not just an ordinary convenience store stop where you go in and you grab like a pop. I actually find myself shopping. Why? Because there's so many available things, and if I want something to eat or a snack, it's right there. If I need to fill up my gas tank, let's say it's nearing E, which I don't allow to happen, but certain people I know does. Guess what? Yeah. Quality gasoline guarantee. Quick Trip is there for you. Absolutely fantastic. Great service. Multiple registers open at one time. Are you kidding me? Who does that? Quick Trip does that. Check them out.
Was Dex on the episode last week, or we confirmed that both of us were at Quick Trip at the same time?
I was going to bring this up on one of the bonus ones to get Dex's, because this is good.
I saw Judd in the parking lot after, like from a distance, getting into his car. He confirmed to me that he actually saw me in the store, but just avoided me in the store.
Go up and say hello.
No. I saw Phil, and
we hung out for 2.5 hours at practice together.
That's exactly the point.
It's enough, man.
That's exactly the point. And plus, I was going to get what I wanted, and then at the register, I was going to say hi, and by the time I got there, Phil was gone. What was I to do?
You're unbelievable.
What was I to do?
Sports dad, man. So let's play some Vikings 53-man roster bubble roulette here.
Quick Trip's not for small talk, boys. It's for action.
I'm going to make you small talk about this first guy here, okay?
All right.
And it's a guy that he's been mentioned in passing. He had, I believe it's 2 weeks in a row now that Brian Baldinger, the great Brian Baldinger, and his little social media film breakdowns that he does, has highlighted this guy. He's an undrafted free agent rookie out of Morgan State, and he has the highest PFF grade of any Vikings defensive player this preseason. Elijah Williams. Defensive lineman Elijah Williams. Where does he fall in this game of roster bubble roulette right now for you?
It's amazing because he's a guy that they actually gave a tryout to in the rookie mini camp right after the draft. A tryout. He didn't get signed. Like, he came in, signed a waiver of, if I get hurt, I won't sue you or whatever. And then he has now been incredibly impressive for 2 consecutive games and in practice. All right, right now, if I was to do a 3.0 Judd's 53, which I think we should do next week, or after the Titans game, I should say.
We'll do it live Friday. From the Minnesota State Fair is
exactly
what we're going to do. Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Here's what I think. I think there's a good chance. I think he makes it, and here's why. Levi Drake Rodriguez got hurt in the first preseason game and has not practiced since. And I don't know what's wrong, but, I mean, we don't know. We don't get injury information until the first week of the season. unless they place a guy on IR, in which case we might not get injury information at all. But may I submit that Elijah Williams, I think, has a very good chance, actually makes the 53 now. I would flip it, and I think there's a very good chance that Levi Drake Rodriguez begins the season on the short-term IR list, because I don't think they want to lose him. But Elijah Williams is flashing enough. Again, it's out there, right? Like Baldy's highlighting it. Everybody sees it. You can get a lot of guys through waivers when it goes from 90 to 53. But I think what Elijah has done deserves a spot, at least on opening day, on the 53.
Yeah. Yeah, you came to the same conclusion I did. It's kind of a numbers game issue for guys at this position on that bubble, because you brought in Hargrave, you brought in Allen, Harrison Phillips, maybe in a lesser role, but still a very good veteran player. Yep. Those guys are locks. Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, 5th-round pick, is a lock based on how much they've been playing him and the fact that he's getting first-team defense run in the joint practices. I think Jalen Redmond is a lock.
He's a lock.
He's flashed up and down practices and even at the end of last year in the games.
They love him.
So those are 5 locks right there. And you had on your 53-man roster projection last week that was also kind of referencing what they did going into last year for the most part, right? So these aren't like, you're not just making these numbers up.
Correct.
You had them keeping 6 at that position with Levi Drake Rodriguez as the 6th. Taki Taimani, sorry, we'll see you on the practice squad or something. But Elijah Williams has been healthy and more productive than Levi Drake Rodriguez the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm with you. I think he's in there as the 6th guy, the down lineman in this 3-4 system out of Morgan State.
I know, but he's been really, really good. I think what he is when I look at his body size and girth, what I see a guy who gives them.
It's me in the mirror every day too.
Oh yeah, sure,
Clearly.
Declan.
Yeah.
I see a guy that gives them what they want or thought that they were going to get from Taki Taimani, who, by the way, I think might get picked up. He's going to get cut, and he might get picked up and probably fits the physical profile for what some teams want. I don't know that it's the Vikings.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Elijah Williams is a better version of Taki Taimani right now. And with Rodriguez being hurt, you can probably just stash him on the 4-game IR if you want, bring him back. And that's how you keep 6 defensive linemen, but really make it 7.
Yeah. By the way, this had me down a Morgan State NFL history rabbit hole on Pro Football Reference. So back in the day, like back in the 50s and the 60s, Morgan State was a factory for great NFL players. The great Leroy Kelly, Hall of Fame running back, 6-time Pro Bowler. I think he took over as the Browns' starting running back after Jim Brown. Leroy Kelly.
Okay.
Once led the league in rushing touchdowns 3 consecutive years out of Morgan State. By my research, there has been one noteworthy Morgan State Viking in history, and Judd covered this player very closely.
I was going to say, this now rings a bell.
This man was once a regular guest on the Royce and Mackey radio show.
Not Darren Sharper.
Did Visante go there?
It was the year before. Darren Sharper was the successor on our show to Visante Shanko.
Was Shanko the guy?
Shanko.
Yeah.
Shank. Oh.
Yeah, no.
3rd-round pick out of Morgan State. Yeah.
Interesting.
Sharper actually played, I think they spent 1 year as teammates with Mike Tomlin.
06, right?
No, I'm saying in college. Wherever Sharper played,
Sharper and Tomlin did.
Yeah, Sharper.
But they didn't go to Morgan State. It was another smaller.
They went to
school.
the same college, and I believe that Mike Tomlin and Sharper were teammates in college for a season.
Yeah, they're not teammates anymore.
No. Mike is no.
Nope. Yeah, Mike is not in jail.
Probably want to avoid any comparison there. So.
Yeah.
School record for most career sacks and tackles for a loss at Morgan State for Elijah.
I think he had like 11 or 12 sacks.
He had 11 last season.
Year.
Yeah.
He had 31 in
his career. Dude. And started 12 contests as a freshman. I don't know if he was a true freshman, but pretty damn impressive.
There's probably a pretty good question, and I don't know the why he didn't get signed as a UDFA.
Let's spin the roster roulette wheel here again. And I'll throw out one of the cornerbacks, but it may launch into a discussion about like 2 or 3 other cornerbacks here. But Zemaiah Vaughn, undrafted free agent out of Utah, 6'2", 187 pounds, lanky. He had one of the best relative athletic scores among any cornerback in this year's class, so very toolsy. And he's one of the taller cornerbacks you're going to find on the fringes of the NFL at 6'2". So what has Judd's camp notes observed in totality here the last month? Zemaiah Vaughn on the 53-man roster bubble.
Everything that they're doing as far as his usage screams he's making it. He's another guy, I think, that fits the profile of what Brian Flores wants. He has the needle-like body. He's very lanky. He is...
Dude, you're on fire.
Football.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, yeah, he is. But no, in fact, so in my Judd's 53 2.0 last week, I had them keeping Byron Murphy Jr., Isaiah Rodgers, Jeff Okudah, who clearly has the team made. He didn't even play on Saturday. Mekhi Blackman, Dwight McGlothern, and Zemaiah Vaughn. But if you were to ask me right now Blackman's a draft pick, so he makes it. But like if you were to ask me how Brian Flores has these guys on a board in his office for his eyes only, I would say that the bottom 3 I gave you on his board would be Zemaiah Vaughn, Mekhi Blackman, Dwight McGlothern, who I'm not sure makes this team now.
If they keep 6, you're saying
yes,
that those 3 guys are above the cut line.
If they keep 6, that is exactly right.
Yeah, he in that last game against the Patriots, he got a ton of run, and when he was targeted, there were 12 pass attempts targeting Zemaiah Vaughn in that game. Actually, these are the first. I think this might be all the preseason games together. 5 of 12 quarterbacks are 5 of 12 this preseason when targeting Zemaiah Vaughn for just 41 yards and 5 yards after the catch. So 12 targets, 41 yards, and just 5 yards after the catch for like a 51 passer rating. He has 0 missed tackles in 2 preseason games, and you saw that open field tackle that he made. And by the way, like when you have a defense, even though they brought in Hargrave and Jonathan Allen, it doesn't necessarily mean they're not going to blitz. Brian Flores across Miami and Minnesota has maintained pretty steadily a 35 to 40% blitz rate, even with good down linemen that can get some push. So when you're sending the 5th guy, the 6th guy, it just leaves a lot more space on the back end. You're going to be one-on-one in the open field. You're going to have to make tackles. And I feel like Zemaiah Vaughn in the games and in the practices, it's hard to tell in the practices, but he's there. Like he's quick to the spot.
Yeah, he'll flash.
And this kind of reflects what happened in college when over the course of his career at Utah, opposing quarterbacks had just an 81 passer rating when targeting him over multiple years, which is what Will Levis's passer rating is in his career so far. So everything kind of lines up what we've seen the last month with his production in college. His athletic profile screams high upside. So I'm with you. I think he's in.
And I think an important thing that you just read from his preseason from the 2 games so far is the lack of yak. Because you're going to give up catches. Now, you don't want to give up big plays, of course. You don't, that's a problem. But you're going to give up catches. And the question becomes, can you tackle then? I mean, how many guys do we see in the secondary who aren't great tacklers? Like, we see that a lot. And that's where you create problems, because now the field gets flipped seriously. So I think the ability to, yes, you're going to give up catches. It's a league in which they want you to. But if you can tackle guys, I always thought that was an area where we didn't appreciate and always sort of clowned on Trey Waynes, right? Because there was a lot of, Trey Waynes, 1st-round pick, are you kidding me? But if you go back and watch, I think if you look at it, I think his ability to tackle was huge.
Yeah.
Because if you give up a 7-yard catch, that's not great. But if the receiver doesn't get to 8 yards or a 1st down, now you're putting a team where they still have to get the 1st down. So I think that is a very, very important factor that we don't appreciate enough, because we just assume, well, it's a catch, he screwed up. Well, but what if he doesn't allow the 1st down? That helps you a lot.
Yeah.
That helps you out a lot.
Is it also fair to speculate, and we can wrap in Mekhi Blackman as part of this discussion? Feels like his stock is lower than we thought it would be at this point, just kind of going into camp.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, your 3 starting cornerbacks in nickel formation would be Byron Murphy Jr., lock. Isaiah Rodgers is probably second in that pecking order. And then on nickel, that's where Okudah comes in as the third guy, but Byron Murphy moves into the slot, right?
Yes.
So if you're in base defense, Isaiah Rodgers above Jeff Okudah on the depth chart. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yes. Yep.
Okay.
Okudah's third. Solid third right now.
So right now, and this is the point I'm getting to, Jeff Okudah is your third cornerback and a starter in the nickel. And to this point, he's been one of the biggest busts of any top 3 pick.
Touché.
Take quarterbacks and put them off to the side here. But, like, it's been bad through 5 years in coverage for him. The Vikings see something. Right now, you have to sort of trust in Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. But if he continues to play in the first 3 or 4 weeks like he's played his whole career in coverage, and you're like, I guess cornerback rehab school didn't really click for Jeff Okudah. Is it then not fair to say that Zemaiah Vaughn is the next guy up on that list?
Unless you go out and get someone else, yes. Yes, and also what they've done, and I think they've rotated them with the second team, but they are using Mekhi Blackman and Dwight McLaughlin inside in the nickel. So they'll play outside, but then they'll come inside. And so I think for the big picture thing, what they're doing is, because Vaughn's athletic type profiles as a boundary guy for sure. So yes, I would say that if I was to rank who is where right now, your outside corners are Rodgers, Murphy when it's not the nickel, but he's your first choice to slide inside. So just outside guys. Rodgers, Vaughn are probably your top 2. Murphy's your top guy inside, and then probably Blackman and McLaughlin. But McLaughlin's playing time has dropped enough that I don't know that he and Zemaiah Vaughn aren't going to flip places on the roster itself, and that Dwight might get waived. I also wonder if there is any thought about picking somebody else up.
So that was my next question here is, at what point you're getting really close to that point where if you're going to call Stephon Gilmore, for example, all right, you got to skip the grind, quote unquote, of training camp and whatever. We trust that you're keeping yourself in shape. He's 34 years old, but could Stephon Gilmore be the 6th guy and Dwight McLaughlin doesn't make the cut or something like that?
Oh, that's absolutely possible. Also, I saw an interesting, I don't know if it's a trend. It was an interesting day in the league Sunday, and it had nothing to do with the games being played. Did you see that we had a couple of trades? And they weren't like huge trades, but there were a couple of trades.
There's a wide receiver.
Yeah, that intrigues me. I feel like we could easily see that. Multiple swaps after the preseason gets done. The Vikings play the Titans on Friday. I wonder if we aren't going to see the Vikings obtain, let's just say, a cornerback and a wide receiver next weekend. So, because Zemaiah Vaughn, I like him, but it feels like, to your point, first of all, you're putting a ton of trust in Okudah, who might be fixed, we don't know, but he's never deserved that trust previously. And then second of all, if anyone gets hurt, do you want, if somebody goes down an outside corner against the Bears, do you want Zemaiah Vaughn to have to go in immediately? I don't know. That's a great decision.
That's the thing. It's one thing to pump a guy's tires, which we are with Zemaiah Vaughn in the discussion about roster bubble roulette, right? It's another thing to pump a guy's tires as a starting nickel cornerback on the outside of a team that wants to win the NFC North, and now you're playing Joe Burrow and you're playing some of the best players in the NFL. So yeah, I would if Stephon Gilmore wants to keep playing, I don't know why you wouldn't bring him in here. And then you got to make a tough decision if you're only going to keep 6. Which of the talented athletic profile guys, Zemaiah Vaughn, Mekhi Blackman, they drafted in the 3rd round.
I don't think he's being cut. I think McLaughlin would be your cut now.
Yep. Okay.
But you bring up a good point, too, because I've seen comments about this, about our show, and I would just like to clear this up, okay? When we talk about Max Brosmer or Zemaiah Vaughn, I see, like, you think he can play? It's like, no, we don't know that they can play now, but, like, the end of the roster, quite frankly, is one area where Purple Daily lives. Like, you got to have a 53. So these are guys that could contribute in the future, it doesn't mean that we think that they should step in on September 8th and play some key role.
Right. The fringes of the 53 are the currency for Judd's camp notes, okay?
That's exactly right. Like if you want to talk about the stars, we'll talk about the stars. And quite frankly, the rest of the world will. If you want to just drill down on where this is going.
Yeah. Yeah, this is, to clarify, because there's a lot of positivity here, right? Elijah Williams, Morgan State, Zemaiah Vaughn. Okay, that positivity is reflective of the bar being making the team. Not Elijah Williams starting next to Jonathan Allen on a Super Bowl winning team with confetti falling, although that would be amazing at some point for Elijah Williams if that happened. Visanthe Shanko probably should have had confetti falling on him at one point, if not for shenanigans at the end of the 2009 NFC Championship game. But yeah, like this is about making a 53 and then the upside and the potential of what could these players be in 2 years or 3 years, right? Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad you reset that boundary there. Okay, let's spin the wheel. Vikings roster bubble roulette here. Xavier Scott, running back Xavier Scott. So 26 years old. He was an undrafted free agent by the Colts in 2023 out of Maine via UConn. Played some wide receiver and running back, but he's essentially a converted wide receiver to running back for NFL purposes here. And on Saturday, Judd, he caught 3 screen passes for 44 yards against the Patriots' backup defenders. But that is an area where, listen, if you're going to make the team as the third running back, it's not going to be because you're on the level of Aaron Jones or Jordan Mason. Like, those guys have the bulk of it covered. Can you come in case of an injury or in some other fringe role and be a specialist in some? Can you be good in pass protection? And can we trust you to call a screen pass and you gain 11 yards on it, right? These little kind of areas in the margin. So running back Xavier Scott, where does he fall in the roster bubble roulette equation?
I think Ty Chandler out of a job. I think Scott, unless they decide to go outside the building for this, I think Xavier Scott is in. Now, there was an interesting thing I think that's transpired in the first 2 preseason games, and we especially saw it on Saturday, and I think it's worth noting. So ordinarily, like an established second-team guy that played on Saturday didn't play much. And you're like, well, of course he didn't. You know, the starters didn't play, and then he got a rep or two, or he got a series or two. In the case of Ty Chandler, though, when you go look at his carries and his usage, I think the damning thing is they know what he can do, so they don't need to see it. Now, this is not, we know what you can do, so you've made the team. This is like, we want to take a longer look at Xavier Scott because we think that he can do more. And that's, I mean, you're right. The thing about this is we can watch Ty Chandler run the football until we're blue in the face and be like, that's not bad. Because it's not bad. But the reality is he's proven now over a lengthy period of time that he doesn't do the small things. And that's what the Vikings need. And the Vikings would, of course, say, well, the small things are the big things. And so I think Ty Chandler's lack of use is very damning here because the Vikings are basically like, we'll give you a few carries, dude, but we don't need to see more. They see enough in practice. So Xavier Scott in unless they decide to go outside the building to get someone, you know, unless they trade a 6th-round pick for, like who? Cam Akers?
Let's make it 3 years in a row. They should just do that as a recurring bit. Just make sure they have enough draft capital that you can always kick in a conditional 6th
just a callback
pick swap.
It's like a TV show callback, right?
It's like the Bobby Bonilla contract that Cam Akers is going to be 10 years retired and you're still going to be swapping 7th-round picks for him. I mean, so our guy Jason Harmon, who, by the way, Before I Die season debut later today on the Purple Daily podcast feeds with Jesse Pierce, Jason Harmon, who's become one of the, I guess, lead voices on Vikings Twitter, fun to follow, and Leighton Glodek. But Jason tweeted out kind of the yards per touch differences. So I did the full math on Xavier Scott compared to Ty Chandler. Again, it's 2 preseason games. These are all just like really shaky sample sizes, but it does fit into a bigger story about training camp practices.
And it's yards per touch, which is extremely important.
Yeah, because you're gonna be catching passes. So Xavier Scott's averaging just under 6 yards per touch in the 2 preseason games compared to Ty Chandler, 3.3 yards per touch for him. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was notable, too, that, again, small sample size alert, but Xavier Scott, of the 68 rushing yards on 17 rushes, so 4 yards a carry, 80% of his preseason rushing yards have come after contact, which is another thing that you're looking for. The Vikings needed to get better in that. That's why they went and got Jordan Mason, because he was actually, on a per carry basis, was one of the best yards after contact backs in the entire NFL. So, if again, in the margins, are you good after contact? Can you catch a screen pass? Can we trust you if needed on a third and must pass to stay in, identify the blitzer, whatever it may be? And it does feel like they are more intrigued by Xavier Scott than Ty Chandler at this point.
Yeah, I think they're at their wits' end with what Chandler does not do well. And they also, like, Mekhi Blackman's, what, a third-round pick from the 2023 draft class, correct?
Yeah.
So that's a third-round pick, and it's a different draft class. They have proven they are perfectly comfortable blowing up the 22 class. So I don't think there's a case now for, well, Ty Chandler's a draft pick of theirs. He's a draft pick in a class that they are slowly but surely just peeling guys off from. So that's the difference between a Mekhi Blackman, in my opinion, who I think makes it in large part because he was a higher draft pick, and Ty Chandler, who's in sort of what was a hopeless draft class.
Yeah. So let's get to the Max Brosmer portion of the roster roulette discussion here in just a moment. But Two Men in a Truck came out, so the Mackies are in the process of a move, and Two Men in a Truck came out, Dex, so efficiently. Everything, even like down to sometimes there's a bunch of like actual paperwork. No, they have everything just like loaded up, boom, 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 tap, signature screen. Couldn't have been a more efficient, awesome process for us on Friday. So shout out to Two Men in a Truck, Dex.
See, even Mackey listens to Dex for his moving needs. And look, Phil and his wife have moved cross country multiple times in the last 5 years. So these two know how to move, and they know that they're gonna hire the experts at Two Men in a Truck. Artie and David helped me out. Can I be Judd? Do you remember the names of the two guys that helped you move at Two Men in a Truck?
Oh my God, I'm gonna pull a Judd here.
I was gonna ask you beforehand.
I should shout them out specifically, and I do have their names in a document somewhere, and they were
See,
awesome.
Judd.
And one of my guys was going. I don't want to like unveil too much, but he was taking his gal on a date night overlooking kind of the Mississippi River and the Twin Cities, and it's like, man, you guys are gonna have a blast. Love that place. You
can't
guys
remember his name.
enjoy
Just
it.
admit it. Don't try to tell me
I know the name of the
backstory.
restaurant.
I can remember backstories.
Regardless, these are good guys. These are good guys and gals
Yep.
at Two Men in a Truck. They make the moves happen. They're friendly people. Mackey's giving them date night recommendations, for God's sakes. So go to 2 Men in a Truck. No hidden fees, no service charges. 2meninatruck.com. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you.
Also, a shout out to a Game Day Men's Health. So it's funny, all you guys poking fun at me turning 40. Mackey's only 40. He looks like he's 90. Oh, this is the first time I've seen this B-roll here. Oh my God!
There is some not safe for words portion of this, and I have a follow-up after you do your read.
Look at me just hanging out in the lounge at Game Day Men's Health. Modern men's health care, where men go to reclaim energy, confidence, and vitality. No judgment, just solutions. Testosterone therapy. So my testosterone number was much lower than it probably should be at 40. Because I, sit around at a desk all day, need to be more active. But they are there to help me with that. Weight loss solutions, treatment for ED, peptides. Look at that. Not safe for work. That's amazing.
I have a follow-up after you're done here.
Check out Game Day Men's Health. 3 locations in the Twin Cities, Edina, Minnetonka, and Roseville. And take control of your health and your life. Go to GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Purple Daily. I know at least a few of you have reached out and have poked around, no pun intended. GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Purple Daily. If you do stop in, or if you're thinking about reaching out to, hit me up, pmackey@scorenorth.com. Would love to hear about your experience and maybe trade some notes. So GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Purple Daily.
So there is that scene on the YouTube audience for our podcast audience where Mackey pulls down his pants to get a shot in his rear end. So I'm guessing our guy Pat Legger did the filming for you with this?
No,
or no?
It was actually our guy Dave Unitan's awesome son.
Okay.
Took care of the videography for that.
Because I was going to say, this means Pat has at least seen part of your rear end. Like, I mean, we love Pat. Pat makes a lot of the stuff happen. He'll make the State Fair broadcast happen. And I feel like there's a next bonding moment that Pat Legger got to see the backside of Phil Mackey.
I know Pat. Pat's asked before if he can see, the top half of my ass. To this point, I have held him off. But the Unitan family has seen the top of old Mac and Dak's ass. Yeah. GameDayMen'sHealth.com/Purple Daily.
Oh, God. I got nothing.
Let's have a Max Brosmer conversation here.
Yep.
So, all right, yeah, we're playing Vikings roster bubble roulette, and Max Brosmer is squarely on this bubble right now, depending on what they think of both Brett Rippon, who they know a lot about, and Sam Howell. And to this point in the preseason, the 2 preseason games where he's gotten the most reps, he's sprinkled in some reps in the joint practices, but he has been excellent from a clean pocket, a little shakier under pressure, 3 of 8 under pressure, 37% completion versus 63% when he's kept clean. The interception came under pressure too. Some of that stuff, not like some of the bad stuff, I feel like isn't fully attributed to Max because other players are either screwing up or doing things around him because he's playing with the third teamers. But Mac, let's have the Max Brosmer roster bubble discussion, Judd.
Well, first of all, I think he's a lock now. No, he's not a lock to start, folks. And I don't personally think that I don't want him as my number 2 yet. I just think that's too much to ask if something were to happen. But there is something there. And that's a pretty important thing. Kevin O'Connell has praised him, and I don't think it's lip service. He's talked about the fact that he has, it's as if he's been in the system for a long time, which obviously he has not. We've seen the work ethic on the field after practice before. He's a football junkie. He is cerebral, but he has talent. He has arm talent. Here's some of the things that have just impressed me. Here's why I think he's a 53. Because go back to the 4th and 17 on Saturday, and there was that pass to Deshaun Jones.
Yeah.
And go back and watch that. It's on Twitter. If you go back and look, Deshaun Jones hasn't even broken off the route to go to the ball yet, and the ball is out.
Is this the outbreaking one, or the in like the
I think it's
kind
the
of the in cut?
The in cut.
Over over a defender.
It's over a
under
defender.
A safety.
It's over. Yeah. So Deshaun Jones is going towards the sideline, and then at the hash he is supposed to break in. But anyway, Brosmer comes under pressure, so he just lets the ball go, and Deshaun Jones does his job. I mean, that's how it works when it works well. It's 2 guys, but Deshaun Jones then makes his cut, and the ball is there over a defender. He can layer the ball. I've just seen enough where first of all, you're not going to get him through to practice squad now. And I don't think O'Connell praises him up and down like he is now if he thinks that he could get him through to practice squad. So there's just been too many positives. And like, this is the beginning. This is a guy who's not getting snaps for the most part. And the real telltale at the end of the day is they gave him the entire second half. So It was Sam Howell starts. I think he played 3 or 4 series. Brett Rippon gets the rest of the first half. And then they cleared out the entire second half. That was to see what he could do. That was to see him in a game. And it's important to remember, and we talked about this a little bit on our brunch episode on Sunday. The thing to keep in mind is it's not necessarily who you have around you, because obviously it's all backups now or third string guys. It's what you do with them. And so the perfect juxtaposition is Sam Howell under pressure in his own zone, panics, and throws the ball. Well, he tries to throw it away, doesn't come close. It gets picked off. It looks like a punt. It's a terrible play. Brosmer had the one pick, but that was at the end of the game on a ball that was basically you had to score ball.
Down by 8.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like green light to throw an interception at that time.
I'm not trying to justify sacks here, but if you go look at what Brosmer was sacked, 3 or 4 times on Saturday, and there were a couple times. In fact, O'Connell talked about it in the third quarter while on, where he just has to get rid of the football.
Yep.
But I also would rather see him eat the ball at this point than to throw the ball away and have it picked. So there's just a lot of good. So I say he is in my opinion, he is a 53 lock.
Yeah, and again, there's 2 parts to this Brosmer discussion. There's is he good enough to be on a 53-man NFL roster as one of 2 or 3 quarterbacks in a room on a team that aspires to win games, double-digit games, and make the playoffs, etc., right? And just like, can he be on that team? And it feels like the answer is yes for all the reasons that you just talked about. But then there's another level to this discussion based on the state of the backups and Sam Howell not really being all that impressive so far this offseason, of how trustworthy would Max Brosmer be if put into an actual NFL game at some point either as an undrafted rookie or maybe sometime in the next 2 or 3 years if he stays in your system. I would say that he's been as advertised in the areas that he was good at in college. He wasn't an all-encompassing. There's a reason why he wasn't drafted, right? Athletically, he's not what some of the other guys are. He's not necessarily making some of the huge throws, certain corners of the field. But where he was great in college, he was the 4th highest graded passer in the country, Pro Football Focus, on intermediate throws. He had a 74% adjusted completion percentage on those types of throws, which was ahead of Jackson Dart, ahead of Cam Ward. And with a clean pocket in college, he was one of the most accurate guys too. And you're not going to get clean pockets all the time in the NFL. So I get that. But he's been exactly that in practices and also in the preseason games when he gets a clean pocket. And presumably if he had to play for the Vikings in the next couple years for 5 games or 2 games, you wouldn't be working with, all due respect, the second, third team offensive lines that are trying to make a team. You'd have Christian Darrisaw over here. You'd have Brian O'Neill, ideally Ryan Kelly, upgraded from Garrett Bradbury. So also like those mesh concepts, those crossing routes, those timing throws, throwing with anticipation, all that kind of between the number stuff that Kevin O'Connell demands out of his quarterbacks, he's able to operate those at a level where you would trust him on a 53-man roster. But how much do the Vikings trust him if McCarthy goes down? Because that's the part of the room you have to figure out. If McCarthy goes down, Sam Howell, Max Brosmer, is that good enough in that room to play 5 or 6 games? And it feels a little rickety to me. And you're relying on hope as a strategy more than track record in both those cases.
Obviously, there's a big part of this as who should back up McCarthy, and should it be Max Brosmer? Should it be Sam Howell? I had an off-season vent line episode on Saturday with Alex and Cody, and they brought up the fact, and I think it was Alex specifically who brought up the fact of good teams also just kind of develop their own backup type of quarterbacks that have been in the room for a long time. And I think that's where Max is also trending towards. So, like, for example, Matt Flynn was with Rodgers for a while, right? And in the Packer system for a while. And I know Flynn had the epic flop in Seattle where the contract doesn't work out. But he was behind Rodgers for a long time and in that room with him for a long, long time. He wasn't drafted by the Bengals. He came from the Vikings. But Jake Browning has made a great little career here being the backup to Joe Burrow and being around that room. So
undrafted.
Undrafted dude, too, who was a baller at Washington. Brosmer, the one really good year in Minnesota. I think I know it's who's going to back up McCarthy, and I understand that's going to get the bigger discussion here. I think having a guy like Brosmer, if he's just QB3 for 2025, but is probably graduating towards being your backup quarterback to J.J. McCarthy for the next 3 to 4 years, that is a very beneficial thing.
Yeah, and if you try to get him through waivers now, he's getting claimed. So I wouldn't try that. And yeah, I think you can have a discussion about would you be comfortable with him as the backup in 2025. I'm shaky on that. But yeah, Dex, I'm totally with you. And look, I mean, what more can you say through training camp than a quarterback who there's something there? Like those are the guys that you hold on to because there's something there. And Brett Rippon is, he is a good guy in the room and he understands things. And I think he's probably a future coach, but there's nothing there. And on Howell, I mean, that's a different discussion about, are you comfortable there? And I fear that his bad tendencies are going to always come out at the worst times.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of this hang up for me in terms of Brosmer on the roster, a play or two away from actually playing. Because like when you're one of the quarterbacks on the roster, you are literally on alert every single Sunday to play in an NFL game. And so you can't just keep guys on that you wouldn't trust to some extent to operate your offense, right?
Yep.
And I've been a little hung up on the undrafted aspect because in my mind, how many undrafted quarterbacks have actually become starters in the NFL? Can't be that long of a list, right? Well, thanks to stathead.com, Pro Football Reference, you can ask that exact question. Over the last 10 years, just anecdotally, how many undrafted quarterbacks would you guess have started at least one game in the NFL over the last 10 years?
Over the last 10 years, I'll go 18.
Dex?
I'm I'll go under Judd. I'm gonna say a dozen.
That's kind of what I thought. Like, so, I don't know,
Yeah.
10, 15, somewhere in there. It's 29. So over the last 10 years, 29. Now, Tony Romo at the tail end of his career he started a handful, and he's actually out in the Mount Rushmore of undrafted quarterbacks of all time. But there's some familiar names here. In terms of most games started, it's Case Keenum was undrafted. Taysom Hill, who's kind of a hybrid quarterback, tight end, whatever his role is. Taylor Heineke, who the Vikings had in camp once upon a time. Brian Hoyer, undrafted. Nick Mullins was undrafted. Jake Browning was in Vikings camp, and Declan brought him up. Tyler Huntley was undrafted. Cooper Rush, who carved up the Vikings in primetime once, was undrafted. Tommy Cutlets, Tommy DeVito.
He might be available too.
Well, maybe you pick up a little Tommy Cutlets.
Giants got a surplus right now. So do the Browns.
Yeah. So there's a bunch of other names in here too Brett Rippon, familiar. Chase Daniel, undrafted. Kellen Moore, undrafted a long time ago. So Sean Hill, that famous game against the Tennessee Titans in week 1 before Sam Bradford stepped in.
2 stints here as well. Don't forget.
Yeah, 2
Maryland guy,
stints.
a Ticey guy.
So we'll see what happens with old Max Brosmer. Okay, next up on Vikings roster bubble roulette here. Let's bring the number 3 tight end slot to the light. Let's talk about Bryson Nesbitt, Ben Urosek, and the veteran Nick Vanette. Do you think one of those guys will make the team as the 3rd tight end? Or let me ask you this. Do you think one of those 3 guys will be the week 1 3rd tight end? Or do you think that 3rd tight end is off the team right now somewhere?
Well, first of all, the slight to Giovanni Ricci.
Sorry, Giovanni Ricci also a
Giovanni
veteran.
Ricci is still very much in camp.
Kind of, yeah.
This is a good one. This is a good one. I think that they keep Ben Urosek.
Wow.
I think they keep Ben Urosek. I think he profiles out to being a pretty good example of what they want. He has the interesting statistical profile. At Stanford, he caught passes. Went to Georgia and blocked his ass off. Like to me, that's a job. That's a Johnny Munt job. It's Johnny Munt, right?
Yeah.
It's can you catch the ball? Can you block? Blocking probably more important. Like your football smarts at that position are probably more important than just one thing, because you've got 2 guys in front of you that are both really good and can play. So if I had to handicap it now, I think that the 3rd tight end is in camp, and I think it is Ben Urosek.
I'm gonna take the gloves off and fight you on the number 3 tight end.
I had a feeling you were going to. I think I know who you're going to say. Okay.
I think it's Nick Vanette. I think with what's happening in the wide receiver room right now, and we had a big discussion about that on yesterday's episode, the Purple Daily Sunday Brunch episode. So we don't have to rehash that whole thing here, but there is so much uncertainty in the wide receiver room right now. Jalen Naylor might miss the first part of the season. Kevin O'Connell was still pretty coy about his hand or injury status, but Doogie's hearing some buzz that, they're concerned about him being ready for the start of the season. Jordan Addison's not going to join until a month into the season. Jefferson's been out with a hamstring. I think they're fine. Like they've planned this, I think, for him to just sit out this portion. But you don't have there's no experience in the wide receiver room. So, all right, how can we combat that? Well, we're looking to run the ball more anyways. We're looking for reliable veteran players that can step foot on an NFL field and we know they know what they're doing, right? Well, you got Josh Oliver and you got TJ Hawkinson. Why not bring a 10-year NFL vet who started 10 games last year for the Titans, 53 career NFL starts? He caught 2 passes for 25 yards or whatever it was in that last preseason game. I guess I don't know that there's a huge risk that either Ben Urosek or Bryson Nesbitt are going to get claimed for a 53-man roster. So I feel like you're safer in cutting those guys and getting them back on your practice squad than Zemaiah Vaughn at cornerback or Max Brosmer at quarterback or Elijah Williams, who Baldy's doing these breakdowns of. Those, to me, those backup tight ends are a little more under. Urosek caught 13 passes last year in the SEC. And I'm not denigrating. I'm just saying I don't think he's a high enough profile guy
he was
where
blocking more last year.
he's going to get claimed instantly.
Yeah, no, that's
so
probably true.
I would lean toward a little more experience and a guy that like he caught a small handful of red zone touchdowns last year. Well, you need that, and you don't really have it in your wide receiver room right now.
Yeah, I think probably the most important question on that guy, though, is, he can catch a little bit, but can he, like the best blocker probably stays. That's my guess. But anyway, I could see it both ways. The third tight end would be a little bit more of a juicy conversation as far as like, will they or won't they? Except for what you said, which is the wide receiver chaos has sort of overshadowed that, which is really unfortunate because we didn't expect that to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
what we said
concerned here, boys. I'm concerned about
I know
the
what we
receiver
said
room.
yesterday is like, of all the scenarios that you could have run the best case scenario and the worst case scenario for the wide receiver grouping behind Justin Jefferson. They got hit with the worst case scenario, which is Jordan Addison gets the full 3-game suspension. Rondale Moore re-injures his knee out for the season.
Yes.
Ty Felton is still a little bit too raw as a third-round pick where you trust just throwing him in there. He also fumbled a kick return.
Lucky Jackson now struggling, which is now to me, I'm not sure he makes it. Like what happened on Saturday was not good, and he also dropped a red zone touchdown in Thursday's joint practice.
Yeah, and then Jalen Naylor gets hurt.
Yeah.
So it's I guess, and then Jefferson misses a month of training camp as part of this equation too. So that's not the worst case scenario.
And amazingly, that's the least of your problems.
I know.
That's sort of what's screwed up about this conversation. Like, we should be way more obsessed about that, and we're not.
We're like 2.5 weeks away from the first game of the season. Jefferson hasn't practiced the entire month and the last week in July. And everyone's like, oh, well, don't worry about that. Look at these other 4 problems at that position group right now. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
But it's so that's why I'm just putting myself in the meeting room when you're hashing this out. Can we sneak, if I'm Kwesi or Kevin O'Connell, can we sneak Bryson Nesbitt and Ben Urasek onto the practice squad and just get another veteran who knows what he's doing on an NFL playing field in Nick Van Nett? And not that Nick Van Nett's going to be the pivot point to your season here, but
I'm not concerned about them being claimed. I'm just thinking that Urasek profiles pretty well to what I want and Vanette joined them late as insurance. Now, if he's impressed, that could totally change that. Nesbitt, he'll get through to the practice squad, no problem.
Okay. He was playing a lot in that last game.
Yeah, they like him.
So, okay. We're going to go through a few more names here. Shout out to Butcher and the Boar for feeding these massive football players.
Oh.
I hope that these guys, in any downtime that they have, if there's an off day, that they check out that new patio at Butcher and the Boar. Jeff.
Guess who's not in any trouble of being cut from the restaurant team? Butcher and the Boar. Because they're
not on the fringe. They're not on the fringe.
No. In fact,
they weren't even playing in the last restaurant preseason game.
They didn't even play in that preseason game. Why? Because they didn't have to. They wore a baseball cap on the sideline because they know exactly what they're doing. They are veterans. Fantastic. And as Phil said, the patio, Butcher and the Boar, North Loop, Southern style hospitality. But let's talk about the patio, boys. And I'm just going to run through some of the items on the patio menu. Let's go through finger foods, okay? We got smoked wings, buffalo or dry rub, curly fries, barbecue seasoning, and horsey sauce. I don't know about you guys. I love horsey sauce.
Absolutely. Clear the sinuses.
We got cheese curds. We've got salad choices. We're talking about a menu on the new absolutely gorgeous patio. And of course, we're talking about beer and craft cocktails as well. Butcher and the Boar. If you're going to a Twins game still, if you're hanging in there with the Twins, check it out before or after a game. Or if you want a dining experience that is fantastic, you want to go inside then and check out Butcher and the Boar. You cannot go wrong. That's why they are the #1 quarterback on Judd's Football Food.
Well, the #1 TV on the pecking order right now on the depth chart is the Roku TV. This one that you see behind me or on your screen right now on the intro, the YouTube intro of these Purple Daily episodes. Roku makes it really easy to discover new content. It's so easy. We're kind of in an era where everything is accessible, but also it's hard to find things because everything is so fragmented, and there's new sports rights deals every year. Where is this basketball game? Where is this football game? Well, with that sport zone on the Roku TV menu, it makes it really easy for you to connect to the teams and the sports that you want to. I know the Mackies love to wind down at the end of a day, or if we're in for the night on a weekend, gather around the Roku TV and enjoy any number of different platforms. By the way, if you're going back to school here, or maybe you're already there and you're like, something's missing in my apartment with me and my buddies or my dorm room, it could be that Roku TV. I ran into a listener right around this time last year, literally in the Target parking lot. I was like, "Are you Phil from Purple Daily?" And I said, "Why, yes, I am, young lad." And he said, "I'm literally here right now with my girlfriend to buy a Roku TV because I heard about it on Purple Daily." And I was like, "That's incredible. Thank you so much for supporting. You think you guys are going to really enjoy the Roku TV." So check them out, Roku.com, or shop at a retailer near you. Okay, next up here, as we wrap the Vikings roster bubble game of roulette, I think the offensive line is fairly set. Judd's 53-man roster includes the 5 starters and then 4 backups, so 9 total offensive linemen. The 4 backups being Blake Brandel, Justin Skule, Michael Juergens, who's the backup center right now, and then Walter Rouse. So that's what Judd's last iteration of a 53 had. But I would love to throw out at least a couple more names here, starting with offensive guard Joe Huber, who was an undrafted free agent out of Wisconsin. 91 PFF run blocking grade, which is by far in the preseason, by far the highest among all Vikings offensive linemen. And only 2 pressures allowed in 84 pass block snaps. So he's been getting some run right at the edge of that roster cutoff line. In fact, I think if they were to keep 10, I think Joe Huber would be the guy. So what are your thoughts? We'll start there with Joe Huber in this game of roster roulette.
So unless they juggle their amount of guys positionally that they keep, because I do think, yes, I think he is the 10th guy. The issue is I don't see one of the guys who they currently, in my opinion, will keep as being replaceable. Like Blake Brandel was a starter. They still like him. I think he in their mind is a reliable backup at guard and at tackle. Justin Skule, if I'm not mistaken, didn't even play on Saturday because he's the Darisaw insurance. Yeah. He's got the roster made.
He's in.
Walter Rouse, they use at both tackles. I think that they really like him a lot. And so the question would be Michael Juergens, but he's the backup center. So I think you would need to keep Joe Huber. I think you would need to juggle your roster positional keeps, because I don't think there's one of those 9 that would be a surprise cut.
Yeah, in terms of center snaps in the preseason, so Ryan Kelly has 12, just a nice little drive there. Yep. And then, so Michael Juergens has 87 snaps at center as the backup center in the preseason. But that brings me to the next name here on roster roulette, Vershawn Lee, undrafted free agent out of South Carolina. So he has played the second most snaps at center among all Vikings offensive linemen in the preseason, 23. He's also played 22 snaps at left guard and 36 snaps at right guard. They are moving him around the chessboard among all 3 of those spots. So from a versatility standpoint, they are test driving Vershawn Lee more than pretty much any player in that offensive line room. Only 1 pressure allowed in 63 dropbacks. So I don't know. I mean, he's a name to keep an eye on. For sure, practice squad, because I think he's the 3rd center on the depth chart right now, but I don't know that that's enough to get him on the 53.
Yeah, he's a practice squad guy for sure. Huber is the one that intrigues me because, he's been super impressive. Yeah. But I just don't see room for him unless you do something, unless you don't keep another player at another position, which, I mean, is a possibility. Vershawn Lee, though, and they've done a good job. They've really moved guys around on the offensive line to like check on, because if you could play guard and tackle, you're obviously more valuable than a guy that just plays guard. So I think Vershawn Lee is a practice squad lock, but I don't think he has a snowball's chance, unfortunately, in HE double hockey sticks of being on the 53.
Yeah. And then the only other name, he's almost certainly out on this 53-man bubble discussion, but he was the number 1 ranked UDFA coming out of the draft. Logan Brown, the offensive tackle from Kansas. They had him working, I believe, both at left tackle and right tackle. So he was right tackle in the first preseason game, and then he played 23 snaps at left tackle. So in pass protection, he's been largely really good. Only 1 pressure allowed in 34 pass blocking reps. But PFF does not like him in run blocking in those 2 games. And he has been, throughout the duration of camp, completely stuck with the third-team offense.
And he was on Saturday, too.
Yeah, like he gets in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
And even at practice, they have not really mixed him in with the second-team offensive line at all whatsoever.
Nope.
So it looks like he is either practice squad bound, or another team would have to look and say, yeah, you know what? I don't know why the Vikings aren't using him higher up on the depth chart, but we're desperate at that position. Claim him for their 53-man roster. I could maybe see a world, too, where, all right, well, if I'm that blocked here, then he might even choose to go to a different practice squad. But but Logan Brown looks like he's not going to make the 53.
Yeah, it's weird. I thought he would get at least some second-team run at some point, but I've not seen that.
Yeah.
0,
So those are kind of the fringe offensive linemen in those 10th, 11th spots behind the backups that we mentioned here. Are there any other names that you would like to throw out, either one of you guys, in this game of Vikings roster bubble roulette, or did we pretty much cover it there?
Miles Price, actually, I would.
Yeah.
Because there's a discussion there. Now, he is a wide receiver who I believe at one time did play running back. He is built like a back. I mean, he does not, this dude's physical profile does not look anything like a receiver. But the conversation here is on returns.
Yeah.
Because he had an impressive kickoff return in, I think it was the fourth quarter on Saturday. Now, post-game, O'Connell said Ty Felton is our kickoff return guy, essentially. Because my question was, do you think that your kickoff return and punt returners are on this team right now? And he doubled down on Felton, who fumbled on Saturday, which concerned me. And then they tried a bunch of guys there, so we'll see what direction that goes in. Price had the impressive kickoff return. More importantly, he also had a couple of punt returns. And I know that sounds like, okay, big deal. But they don't have a punt returner right now. And it feels like they're tempting fate here, unless they do something. It feels like we're going to get to September 8th. Declan, cover your ears. You're not going to like what I'm going to say. Night game in Chicago. Conditions probably not terrible, but it's windy there in the stadium coming off the lake. Under the lights, you got to have a guy that can catch damn football.
Yeah.
So Miles Price to me is a wide receiver, roster bubble discussion guy based on his ability to catch punts. Sounds stupid, but it's true.
Yep. And he's been used in these preseason games mostly out of the slot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in fact, he's actually had the most snaps out of the slot for.
I think that's all he can do, probably, right? He's built like a slot guy if he's ever.
Yeah,
played
he's always
receiver.
he's 5'9", 5'10", somewhere in there.
He's stockier than Silas Bolden, I believe. Now, Bolden also is an option, but I feel like Miles Price is more trusted than Silas Bolden by the Vikings.
Also, like, if you're looking here, okay, Miles Price is what, 5 years younger than Lucky Jackson. So if you're just looking for, if Lucky Jackson had balled out in this last preseason game and in the joint practices, you'd be like, all right, well, hell, we need someone that we can trust. And he's like 27 or 28 years old. Let's just run him out there. But if you're looking to keep a guy with some versatility as a returner and with some upside just age-wise, maybe Miles Price does move above Lucky Jackson in this discussion.
If he does, and if he gets cut, who's going to return punts? I'm semi-panicked here, FYI.
Well, Miles Price, too.
Thank you.
He was Texas Tech for 4 years, and then he was Indiana his last year in college. In addition to catching, 40 or 50 passes every year as kind of a slot receiver, he did return, especially at Indiana, he returned 23 punts. He was the punt returner for Indiana. 23 punts, 13 yards per return. Brandon Powell, last year with the Vikings, only 7 yards per return. Now, this is Indiana college Big Ten stats converting to NFL, so
sure,
we'll have to see. But he did return 42 punts over his college career at 14 yards per return between Texas Tech and Indiana. So that skill set alone might get him on the 53-man roster at this point.
Marcus Sherrills carved out an entire career and pretty damn successful by doing that.
Yep.
Like when Marcus Sherrills
make millions
played
of dollars
corner,
doing that. Yeah.
We were all like, "Oh my God, he's playing cornerback. That's not good." But as a punt returner, he's easily the most dynamic punt returner I've covered on the Vikings. The other one, just quickly, it's safety because he started with the backups on Saturday. Xavier Thomas, who I had been cut initially, but if you go back and look, the thing is he brings a special teams quality as well. So I wonder if he's going to stick based on that as a depth safety.
Yeah. Boy, I think we covered all of the fringes of the 53-man roster there.
That's how a roster is built. These guys are going to have to play at some point.
Yeah, that was good. Good exercise. Football. This is why Judd's camp notes literally takes notes on everything he sees at practice.
I've got my depth chart here, so I can use it as a play card.
Yeah. Are you going to frame that one? That was a great joint practice. That day 2 of joint practice. If J.J. McCarthy becomes a Hall of Famer someday, you're going to want to keep that little joint practice roster card.
That's very true.
The day where the 12 for 12, the day where it all
it all came together.
Yeah.
The 30 for 30, that practice will be included.
What's the 30 for 30 going to be called? 12 for 12, the J.J. McCarthy story?
Well, I was only thinking that'd be part of the...
How about a Thursday at camp? A Thursday at joint practice.
Camp
the J.J.
notes.
McCarthy
And they can
story.
talk to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw something special right away that Thursday. I remember I was up on this perch watching the practice, slathered in suntan lotion with my bucket hat on, and I just had to lift my bucket hat off my head for a second and say, am I seeing what I'm seeing?
So you're going to implement an accent on this documentary? Is that
the football accent.
Oh, that's your football accent? Is that your
football
SEC?
accent. That's my SEC, yeah.
Bobby Bowden.
Yeah. I'm so proud. He might get fired, by the way. Brian Kelly might be in trouble.
It's bad. By the way, if they cut to me on that documentary, I'm going to have to be like, sorry, Judd had me watching Tyreen Ingram Dawkins over on the side field.
What did Phil think? I never saw it.
I have no idea. I heard a couple cheers. I lean on my sports dad. So, all right, Purple Daily. That's about as deep of a fringe of the roster dive as you're going to get right there. Elijah Williams, let's make it happen here. So, keep an eye out for Purple Daily NFL takes on the feeds today for the season debut of Before I Die. And then tomorrow we'll have Judd's camp notes in some form, followed by a hottest take, a random Viking of the week. And then we're super pumped to be at the State Fair starting on Thursday with Purple Daily and the Score North Twin Show. You can find a full schedule again at scorenorth.com/fair. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See ya.